Shore, and I am your guest lecturer today. While I do work at the United States Department of State, the views and information that I will be presenting in this presentation today are not the views or the information of the United States Department of State. We are going to be discussing a extremely interesting concept, the circular economy. For example, I want to show is a company that Philips, which I imagine most of us here have heard about, how they have changed their business model around to be more circular.
What is Philips circular lighting, and how does it fit within the principles of a circular economy? As opposed to a linear economy, the circular economy focuses on bringing as many materials as possible back into the production loop. Make, use, return. We've completely rethought the way in which lighting solutions can contribute to a circular economy. Philips circular lighting brings together four key components: light as a service, circular product design, reverse logistics, and collaboration. In our light as a service business model, you don't need to make an upfront investment. You save from day one. Your contract includes maintenance, reverse logistics support, everything you'll ever need. But it all starts with a smart circular product design. Our modular luminaire design makes it easy to replace standardized components and install upgrades like data-enabled lighting. Thanks to reverse logistics, used products are not disposed of as waste. Instead, they are returned to the manufacturer. Whenever possible, we refurbish the products for future use. And if a product has reached the end of its lifetime, we harvest functional parts to reuse them and recycle the rest of the materials. Philips Lighting will support the full feedback loop that brings a product's components back into the production cycle. To help your organization contribute to a sustainable, circular economy, Philips Circular Lighting is the best possible choice to minimize your carbon footprint and achieve instant savings. We are committed to staying at the cutting edge of lighting innovation for the planet and for a more sustainable future.
Excellent. So I want to note here that this is not just something that's a concept. This is actually in action as well. As you can see here in this video that's popping up, the airport in Amsterdam actually has um, a portion of their airport using this Philips circular lighting uh, method. And there's a city in Taiwan that has over 15,000 light fixtures. Let's do a quick outline of what we're going to be discussing today. Firstly, we're going to explain the need for sustainable resource utilization. Essentially, what's the relevance of this circular economy concept that we're going to be discussing today? Next, well, let's define what the circular economy and the linear economies are. Lastly, I'm going to put this all into context by giving some real world case study examples of the circular economy from organizations and companies that I worked closely with in Taiwan, but also beyond the island and the region. Also enjoy perhaps the most abundant life ever. And the main point that I want to put across here is that these consumption patterns are likely to increase over time as population grows, as more people join the middle class and demand more things. Where are all these items coming from, and where are they ending up? Well, the way to answer that question is to discuss the linear economy. What the linear economy is it's essentially an idea saying that for a material, we will take it, we will make it, and we will dispose of it. So, for example, a plastic water bottle, the raw materials for that may be taken out of the earth, then they'll be sent to a processing plant, turned into a plastic water bottle, and then once that water bottle is sent to a store, somebody drinks the water out of it, it more likely than not will be um, sent to a disposal site or potentially burned as waste energy. But the overall idea is that in this process, it is a linear process. Natural materials are then turned into waste. So, an idea to put this into some context is planned obsolescence. An example of this linear economy or planned obsolescence, built in obsolescence is a policy of planning or designing a product with an artificially limited useful life. A great a great example of this are phones. For example, the iPhone. It seems like almost every year there's a new version of the iPhone that comes out. And this isn't something that is done on accident. Many cell phone companies like Apple, Samsung, make their phones to be non repairable and their batteries non replaceable or expensive to replace. And of course, the economic model for the company is to sell as many of these units as they can. Is there an alternative to this mainstream consumption pattern? I posit that it's the circular economy. So, what is the circular economy? Circular economy is a model of production, consumption, waste management, which involves sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing, and recycling existing materials and products as long as possible. It's really similar to the three R's that reduce, reuse, recycle, yet a special focus is placed on capitalizing waste while maintaining the quality of material through the material flow. Some people have perhaps heard of this as the cradle to cradle. So I want to jump into a quick video that will introduce what the circular economy is.
Living systems have been around for a few billion years and will be around for many more. In the living world, there's no landfill. Instead, materials flow. One species' waste is another's food, energy is provided by the sun, things grow, then die, and nutrients return to the soil safely. And it works. Yet as humans, we've adopted a linear approach. We take, we make, and we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. It simply can't work long term. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it? By rethinking and redesigning products and components, and the packaging they come in, we can create safe and compostable materials that help grow more stuff. As they say in the movies, no resources have been lost in the making of this material. So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink, a way to cycle valuable metals, polymers, and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together. Imagine if we could design products to come back to their makers, their technical materials being reused and their biological parts increasing agricultural value. And imagine that these products are made and transported using renewable energy. Here we have a model that builds prosperity long term. And the good news is, there are already companies out there who are beginning to adopt this way of working. But the circular economy isn't about one manufacturer changing one product. It's about all the interconnecting companies that form our infrastructure and economy coming together. It's about energy. It's about rethinking the operating system itself. We have a fantastic opportunity to open new perspectives and new horizons. Instead of remaining trapped in the frustrations of the present, with creativity and innovation, we really can rethink and redesign our future.
I hope you enjoyed that video. It's a pretty fun one. Actually, I want to mention too before I go forward here that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is really credited with bringing the circular economy to the mainstream. And if you want to read a little bit more about the circular economy, I recommend going to their website here, the linear and circular economies and the difference between the two. I want to run through some of these graphics with you. So first, the linear economy is about bringing in raw materials, producing them into something, using them, and then essentially having the final product being non-recyclable waste. The idea of recycling systems, so maybe linear economy plus, would be the same idea, but then there's some aspect of recycling in this process. However, so you can still see here in this black box, there's still non-recyclable waste being created. The idea of the circular economy is that you'll notice this black box is no longer here, that there is no waste created in the process. And another way to see this is in a little bit more of a simplistic drawing here. Waste, recycling economy, less waste, goes through a little bit more of a complex process. Circular economy, much more of a complex process is of how we use and design and even business models of how we sell our products and materials, and ultimately there's no waste generated. There's also an emphasis on waste is a material value. As some folks have said, it's not waste, it's wealth in Taiwan. I focus on Taiwan not only because it's where I did a majority of my research, but also it's one of the leading circular economies in the world, probably second only to the Netherlands. Beyond that, it's also an ideal case study for the circular economy because of a variety of reasons, such as it's a modern developed country, the large population, dense population centers, and it adheres to international standards such as ISO. Of particular interest to this audience, industry also equates for about 35% of Taiwan's annual GDP. This is from Information 2018. Taiwan's also a possible look into our future, or future of other regions of the world. Taiwan's a small island with limited resources, as noted here, and a large population. It must use its resources wisely. As resources become more finite and or in demand, much of the world will likely increasingly look like this island nation. I also focus on the evolution of Taiwan's circular economy program because this has been a prerequisite step in creating material streams and evolving supportive policy and economic incentives rather than other countries such as the United States to shift responsibility from consumers to producers and increasingly on material suppliers to reduce, reuse, and recycle or promote a circular economy via an extended producer responsibility scheme, EPR, which we'll get into defining in our upcoming slides. So in the 1990s, Taiwan faced a serious problem. As its population grew, industry expanded, and the middle class increased, waste increased. But landfills became increasingly full, and during this time, Taiwan was often referred to as Trash Island. In fact, by 1996, 2/3 of all landfills were full. Today, interestingly enough, only about 1% of all the waste generated on the island goes to landfills. And Taiwan produces about 25% less waste per capita compared to similar economies. The rate of the development of Taiwan's recycling program was astounding. So you can see here in 1998, about 1% of all items that could be recycled were recycled. But by 2017, it had reached 53%. Another way to look at that is this graph here. I want to point out that this is going from 2010 to 2017, again, 10% to up to 53%. And it's currently seen in most recent information from 2018 and 2019, somewhere in the ballpark between 55 and 58%. This marks it within the top 5% of countries, or the top 5 countries that have the highest recycling rate in the world. Another thing I want to point out, something I mentioned earlier, is that the amount of garbage produced per capita also significantly was reduced over this period of time. The circular economy, as you can see here, has been as of just a few years ago, added as an official pillar of Taiwan's traditional economy, which are made up of these industries here. Also, Taiwan has developed a vast network of research organizations and industries, NGOs, university programs that study and develop waste management and circular economy programs. We're going to go through a variety of case studies. Now, I'm going to go through these quite quickly, so I recommend if you want to learn a little bit more about any of these specific studies, you look into the notes of the PowerPoint presentation. What's unique about Linghai is that it is a very large industrial park, and a few years ago they initiated this industrial symbiosis where they linked a variety of different factories and plants and facilities to use each other's outputs as their inputs. And this saved around $2 billion per year since the program started. So, for example, as you can see in the center here, a manufacturer of basic iron and steel would use its steam and originally would have just been released out into the environment, was then captured and sent to a manufacturer of petroleum and coal products. Example 4 is new materials for mold. So in this case here, you can see that there's a cross-industry collaboration. So slurry from solar cell production was turned into a variety of new products. And the point that I want to put across here is that one industrial or waste from one industrial producer can turn into a product for a variety of other industries. So in this case, this silicon slurry was eventually turned into t-shirts to inputs for steel production. Another example, and this one's one of my favorites, are these tiles here that were made from recycled printed circuit boards, PCBs. These PCBs were broken down, turned into these tiles, which are then put on buildings. They're waterproof. They also emit heat slowly throughout the course of a day. Development of an LCD waste recycling system. So not only through this recycling system would a LCD screen have its components being broken down, such as glass, and be turned into building materials, but I think the most interesting aspect of all of this was that it was through this process able to extract and recycle 100% of all the liquid crystals from LCD screens. What's unique about this is that there's only about 3 producers in the world of these crystals, and for a bottle about this size it would cost somewhere between $2,000 to $6,000. With this process of being able to 100% recycle and recollect those crystals, it can obviously have a huge financial benefit to any LCD producing company. Another example is Dafeng Technologies, one of Taiwan's largest recycling companies, primarily recycling HDPE, so plastics such as a milk jug would be made out of. And the cool thing that they did here was that they take these milk jugs, they turn them into this recycled plastic filament, and then this filament was then was then bought by Xerox, the printing company, to build their printing racks on a printing machine. When a paper comes out and it lands on the racks on the side of the device. What's I think is quite fascinating about this is originally their cost using virgin plastic material was around $22 per machine. Working with Dafeng and using this recycled plastic filament, they were able to reduce their cost per device for those shelves to $2. So $22 down to $2, quite amazing. So this is the Fairphone. It's the first modular open source repairable smartphone available for purchase. And it was first released in late 2015. Now, while this isn't a Taiwanese company or device, it's well known in Taiwan for its potential to be a disruptor to the phone industry. As many of you have potentially heard of, Foxconn. Foxconn is a Taiwanese company. It's also one of the largest phone producers in the world, especially for the iPhone. The potential of something like the Fairphone, a modular design that's open source and actually promotes people to take their phones apart, rebuild them, sells batteries and parts as well openly online. uh, is that it goes against this model of planned obsolescence that we discussed earlier. That instead of a phone's profitability or phone companies' profitability being selling units and making phones only uh, cutting edge for a period of time, if new battery technology comes out or a new screen technology comes out, that can be modular, taken out, and swapped in with a new screen while saving all these other components instead of having to toss them away. Lastly, I want to talk about the construction industry. So this is I think one of the most interesting examples too of the circular economy. MiniWiz is a company based in Taiwan that has built a diversity of buildings and materials from recycled products. For example, here you can see this building is 100% made out of recycled products, and all of these little white things you can see here on the diagonals, those are all water bottles and are the structure of the building. Um, but something I think is of also particular interest to the audience here is that MiniWiz is a company started and run by engineers. So let me let MiniWiz introduce themselves.
We want to matter. We want to matter to the non-toxic future of our world. We want to matter to the sustainability of our community. At MiniWiz, it is our mission to change consumer behavior into a circular one. It is the only way for us as a species to sustainably consume our limited resources. Overconsumption is a complex system problem. There is no single miracle cure. We want to matter by proving human consumption can be satiated with our very own trash. We have dedicated ourselves to turning decades of environmental pollution into solutions that will enable us to live sustainably. We want to matter, so we turn ourselves into magicians of trash, inventing new ways of transforming our everyday trash into high-performance works of art. We turn milk packaging into the hottest sportswear fashion, plastic bottles into luxurious textile, cigarette butts into furnitures and glasses, coffee cups into the furniture of the future. We want to matter, so we infiltrate the cities where the desire for luxury is cultivated. In Milan, in Berlin, in Beijing, in Taipei. We want to matter, so we design scalable technology, machines, softwares, utilizing the material and carbon footprint that we have already created. We research new ways to reuse trash, localized collection for turning waste into new products. To date, our lab has innovated over 1,200 new materials made from trash to unlock the upcycling potential of everyday waste, available in our cloud material database. We want to matter by giving our future generation hope. Please join us in this trash revolution against our own selfish inertia. Let's stop talking about the problem, take responsibility of our own action, and start doing. Because we all matter.
And attention. I hope you take the concepts that you learned here and apply them throughout your career as an engineer. As engineers, people will look to you to solve complex problems. And by applying the concepts of the circular economy, you can not only meet the needs of your organization, customers, society, but actually go beyond that by wisely promoting the sustainable use of finite resources. And certainly the byproducts of this are increased profits for your organization, but perhaps more importantly, a healthier environment and a more sustainable society. I welcome you all to reach out to me by email if you have any questions, and I greatly again thank you for your time and attention and wish you all the best. A little bit about myself. As I mentioned, my name is Grayson Shore. I was a United States Department of State Foreign Fellow based in Taiwan and in China last year, where I researched the circular economy, waste management, material use, and even did such things as geospatial analysis to understand the amount of plastic waste going into our oceans.